Have you ever wondered if history follows a script, a blueprint laid out thousands of years ago? What if a series of ancient visions, recorded by a captive in a foreign land, provided a stunningly accurate roadmap of world empires, pinpointing their rise and fall, and even revealing the timeline for the most pivotal event in human history? This is the profound mystery locked within the prophecies of the Book of Daniel, a collection of divine revelations that challenges our modern understanding of time, power, and purpose, inviting us to see that history is far from a random sequence of chaotic events. To truly grasp the weight of these prophecies, we must first understand the man who received them, Daniel. He was not a king or a conqueror, but a young Jewish nobleman, a teenager torn from his homeland of Judah and taken into exile in Babylon, the world's most powerful and opulent empire. In this foreign court, Daniel and his friends were chosen for their wisdom and intelligence, destined to be assimilated into Babylonian culture. Yet, amidst immense pressure, Daniel remained steadfast in his devotion to God, a commitment that would become the foundation for the incredible insights he was about to receive. The context of Daniel's prophecies is crucial. They were not given in a time of peace and prosperity for his people, but during a period of national despair. Jerusalem had been conquered, the temple destroyed, and the people of God were scattered. The central question looming over the exiles was a painful one. Had God abandoned them? Were the gods of Babylon more powerful? It is into this darkness of doubt and uncertainty that the light of prophecy shines, serving as a powerful reassurance that God had not lost control, but was in fact sovereign over all nations and all of history. The prophecies in the book of Daniel are more than just future predictions. They are a theological statement about divine sovereignty. They systematically demonstrate that human kingdoms, with all their might and splendor, are temporary and ultimately subject to a higher authority. From the golden head of a magnificent statue to a terrifying beast with iron teeth, the visions reveal a repeating pattern of worldly power giving way to the next, all culminating in the establishment of a final, eternal kingdom that will never be destroyed. This overarching theme provides a framework of hope for people of faith in every generation. The first major prophecy unfolds not through Daniel himself, but through the troubled dreams of the Babylonian king, Nebuchadnezzar. In the second chapter, the king has a disturbing vision that his own wise men cannot interpret, leading him to decree their execution. It is in this moment of crisis that Daniel steps forward, not with human wisdom, but with a revelation from God. He reveals the king's dream of a colossal statue, a figure of immense power and glory, yet made of different, progressively weaker materials, setting the stage for a grand panoramic view of future world history. Daniel begins his interpretation with the statue's head of pure gold. He tells Nebuchadnezzar directly, "You, your majesty, are the king of kings. You are that head of gold." This represented the Babylonian Empire, known for its incredible wealth, power, and influence under Nebuchadnezzar's rule. Babylon was the gold standard of ancient empires, a civilization of breathtaking architecture, advanced astronomy, and military might. The prophecy affirmed its current supremacy, but also subtly hinted that its golden age, like the head of the statue, was only the beginning of a much longer story of successive world powers. Following the head of gold, Daniel described the statue's chest and arms made of silver. He prophesied that after Babylon, another kingdom would arise, inferior in its sheer glory but still a formidable power. History validates this prediction with stunning accuracy in the rise of the Medo-Persian Empire. In 539 BC, Cyrus the Great conquered Babylon, uniting the Medes and the Persians into a single, vast dominion. While not as singularly magnificent as Babylon, its administrative genius and vast expanse, symbolized by the two arms of silver, made it the next great superpower on the world stage. The prophecy continues down the statue, to its belly and thighs of bronze. This, Daniel explained, would be a third kingdom that would rule over the whole earth. This points directly to the meteoric rise of the Greek Empire under Alexander the Great. Sweeping out of Macedonia, Alexander's armies conquered the Persian Empire with unprecedented speed and efficiency. The bronze, a metal used for weapons and armor, aptly symbolizes the military dominance of Greece, whose influence and language would spread across the known world, fundamentally shaping the culture and politics of the entire region for centuries to come. Next were the statue's two legs of iron, representing a fourth kingdom as strong as iron that would crush and break all the others. This is almost universally identified as the Roman Empire. No other power in history better fits the description of iron. Rome's military legions were an unstoppable force, conquering and absorbing territories with relentless efficiency. The empire's defining characteristic was its raw power to crush opposition and its ability to impose its laws and infrastructure across a vast and diverse population, symbolized perfectly by the unyielding strength and durability of iron. However, the prophecy includes a fascinating and crucial detail about the statue's feet and toes, which were made of a mixture of iron and clay. Daniel interpreted this to mean that the final form of this fourth kingdom would be divided and would possess both the strength of iron and the brittleness of clay. This accurately describes the later stages and eventual legacy of the Roman Empire, which split into two halves and eventually fractured into various kingdoms. This mixture symbolizes a state of perpetual disunity and internal weakness. Though attempts would be made to unify them, they would never truly cohere, just as iron cannot permanently mix with clay. The climax of Nebuchadnezzar's dream is the most significant part of the prophecy. A stone, cut out but not by human hands, suddenly strikes the statue on its feet of iron and clay, shattering it completely. The pieces of gold, silver, bronze, iron, and clay are blown away like chaff, leaving no trace. Then this stone that struck the statue becomes a great mountain that fills the whole earth. This represents the establishment of God's eternal kingdom, a divine intervention into human history that will supersede all earthly empires and will stand forever. A kingdom not built by human ambition, but by God's own power. Years later, in the 7th chapter, Daniel receives his own vision that parallels and expands upon the king's dream. While Nebuchadnezzar, a human king, saw the succession of empires as a glorious human statue, Daniel, the prophet of God, sees them from a divine perspective, as a series of 4 ferocious and rapacious wild beasts rising from a chaotic sea. This shift in imagery is profound, revealing the true nature of worldly kingdoms as violent, predatory, and ultimately opposed to the gentle and just rule of God, providing a more sobering and realistic view of human history. The first beast Daniel sees is like a lion with the wings of an eagle, a powerful and majestic creature. This corresponds to the head of gold and represents the Babylonian Empire. The lion symbolized strength and kingship, while the eagle's wings denoted its swiftness in conquest. Daniel then watches as its wings are plucked off, and it is made to stand on 2 feet like a man, and a human mind is given to it. This could symbolize the humbling of Nebuchadnezzar, who was driven to madness before his reason was restored, a powerful reminder that even the mightiest rulers are subject to God. The second beast resembled a bear, raised up on one of its sides, with 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth. This beast, corresponding to the Silver Kingdom, represents the Medo-Persian Empire. The bear is a less majestic but more brutish and powerful creature than the lion. Its being raised on one side likely symbolizes the dominance of the Persian element over the Median in the alliance. The 3 ribs in its mouth are often interpreted as representing the 3 major conquests that established its empire: Lydia, Babylon, and Egypt, showcasing its ravenous and expansionist nature. The third beast was like a leopard, and on its back it had 4 wings of a bird. This swift and agile creature also had 4 heads, and it was given authority to rule. This vision corresponds to the Bronze Kingdom of Greece. The leopard is known for its incredible speed, and the addition of 4 wings emphasizes the unprecedented swiftness of Alexander the Great's conquests. The 4 heads are a new and vital piece of information, prophetically illustrating that after Alexander's untimely death, his vast empire would not remain unified but would be divided among his 4 main generals, the Diadochi. The 4th beast is the most terrifying of all, described as dreadful, frightening, and exceedingly strong. It had large iron teeth, which it used to devour and crush its victims, and it trampled underfoot whatever was left. This beast, corresponding to the legs of iron, is a vivid depiction of the Roman Empire's ruthless and overwhelming military power. Unlike the previous beasts, it is not compared to any known animal, highlighting its uniquely destructive and oppressive nature. Daniel is so disturbed by this beast that he specifically asks for more information about its meaning. Emerging from the head of this 4th terrifying beast are 10 horns, symbolizing a confederation of rulers or kingdoms that would arise from the remnants of the Roman Empire. Then another horn, a little horn, grows up among them, uprooting 3 of the original horns. This little horn is described as having human eyes and a mouth that spoke boastfully and blasphemously against God. This figure is a central antagonist in Daniel's prophecies, often interpreted as an end-times ruler who will persecute God's people before the final judgment. The terrifying vision of the beasts of human history is then contrasted with a majestic scene of the heavenly court. Daniel sees thrones set in place, and the Ancient of Days, a title for God the Father, takes his seat. His appearance is one of pure light and fire, and thousands upon thousands attend him. The court is seated, and the books are opened for judgment. This scene shifts the focus from the temporary chaos of earth to the eternal order and justice of heaven, showing that all human actions and empires are ultimately accountable to God. In this heavenly court, Daniel sees one like a son of man, a figure who is presented before the Ancient of Days. This Son of Man, widely understood to be the Messiah, is given everlasting dominion, glory, and a kingdom that will never be destroyed. All peoples, nations, and languages will worship him. This is the ultimate answer to the violent succession of beastly kingdoms. Human rule, based on power and aggression, will be definitively replaced by the righteous and eternal rule of the Son of Man, establishing a kingdom of peace and justice. The prophecy in Daniel chapter 8 provides even greater specificity, focusing on the transition between the Second and Third Empires. Daniel sees a vision of a ram with 2 horns, one longer than the other, pushing westward, northward, and southward. The angel Gabriel himself appears to Daniel to interpret the vision, explicitly stating that the ram with the 2 horns represents the kings of Media and Persia. This direct interpretation removes any doubt and confirms the identity of the Second Beastly Empire, demonstrating the prophecy's incredible precision. Suddenly, a male goat with a prominent horn between its eyes comes from the west, moving so fast its feet do not touch the ground. It furiously attacks the ram, shattering its two horns and trampling it. Gabriel explains that this goat is the king of Greece, and the large horn is its first king. This is a clear and unmistakable prophecy of Alexander the Great, who came from the west and conquered the Medo-Persian Empire with astonishing speed and military genius, just as the vision depicted. The vision continues with a pivotal event. At the height of its power, the great horn of the goat is broken off. In its place, four prominent horns grow up, pointing toward the four winds of heaven. This corresponds perfectly with the historical record. Alexander the Great died suddenly at the peak of his power, and his vast empire was subsequently divided among his four generals: Cassander, Lysimachus, Ptolemy, and Seleucus. The prophecy not only foresaw the rise of Greece, but also its specific internal fragmentation after its great leader's demise. From one of these four horns comes another little horn, a figure who grows exceedingly great, extending his power toward the south, the east, and the beautiful land, which is Israel. This horn magnifies himself, challenges the prince of the host, abolishes the daily sacrifice in the Jerusalem temple, and casts truth to the ground. This prophecy is historically fulfilled in startling detail by the actions of Antiochus IV Epiphanes, a ruler of the Seleucid Empire who brutally persecuted the Jews and desecrated the temple in the 2nd century BC, an event that led to the Maccabean revolt. Perhaps the most intricate and debated prophecy in the entire book is found in chapter 9, the prophecy of the 70 weeks. This vision is given to Daniel after he prays earnestly for the restoration of Jerusalem and his people. The angel Gabriel returns to give him skill and understanding, revealing a divine timetable for Israel's future, centered on the coming of the Messiah and the atonement for sin. This prophecy stands apart for its incredible chronological specificity, providing a countdown to the most important events in redemptive history. Gabriel tells Daniel that 70 weeks are decreed for your people and your holy city. The original Hebrew phrase is better translated as 77s. Given the context of the prophecy, scholars widely interpret this to mean 70 weeks of years, or a total period of 490 years. This period is decreed to accomplish 6 profound things: to finish transgression, to put an end to sin, to atone for wickedness, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. These are all messianic accomplishments. The 490-year timeline is broken down into 3 distinct parts. The first period is 7 sevens, or 49 years. This period is designated for the issuing of the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem. Historically, a decree was given by the Persian king Artaxerxes Longimanus in 457 BC, which authorized Ezra and Nehemiah to not only rebuild the city's physical structures, but also to restore its political and religious governance. This marks the starting point of the prophetic clock. The second period consists of 62 sevens, or 434 years. This period follows the initial 49 years, bringing the total elapsed time to 69 sevens, or 483 years. The prophecy states that after the initial rebuilding phase, the city will remain for this longer period, leading directly up to the arrival of the Anointed One, the ruler. This part of the prophecy serves as a long bridge, connecting the restoration of the physical city with the appearance of its promised spiritual king. Calculating forward 483 years from the decree of Artaxerxes in 457 BC brings us to approximately 27 AD. This date remarkably coincides with the beginning of Jesus Christ's public ministry, when he was baptized by John the Baptist and anointed by the Holy Spirit. The precision is astonishing, providing a specific time frame for when the people of Israel should have been expecting their Messiah to appear on the world stage, fulfilling the prophecy of the Anointed One's arrival. The prophecy then takes a dramatic turn. It states that, after the 62 sevens, the Anointed One will be put to death and will have nothing. This is a stunning prediction of the crucifixion of the Messiah. He would be cut off, a Hebrew idiom for a violent death, after his presentation to Israel. This event, occurring just a few years after the start of his ministry, is central to the prophecy's purpose of making atonement for wickedness and bringing in everlasting righteousness, fulfilling the core mission outlined at the beginning of the vision. The final week, the 70th seven, or the last 7-year period, is described with more complex events. The prophecy speaks of a ruler who will come, who will destroy the city and the sanctuary. This was fulfilled historically in 70 AD when the Roman general Titus, the son of the emperor, laid siege to Jerusalem and completely destroyed both the city and its magnificent temple. This event occurred within a generation of the Messiah being cut off, just as the prophecy implied. The 70th week also speaks of this ruler confirming a covenant with many for 1-7. But in the middle of the 7, he will put an end to sacrifice and offering. At the temple he will set up an abomination that causes desolation. The interpretation of this final 7-year period is a subject of much debate among theologians. Some see it as fulfilled historically in the events leading up to 70 AD, while others view it as a future period of tribulation that is yet to be fulfilled before the final return of the Messiah. The 11th chapter of Daniel contains the longest and most detailed prophecy in the book, a minutely specific account of the political and military conflicts that would occur after the breakup of Alexander's empire. It focuses primarily on the rivalry between two of the successor kingdoms, the Seleucid Empire to the north of Israel, referred to as the King of the North, and the Ptolemaic Empire to the south in Egypt, the King of the South. The prophecy reads like a detailed historical script written in advance. The chapter outlines a long series of battles, treaties, betrayals, and political marriages between these two dynasties, as they vied for control of the strategically important land of Israel, which lay between them. It describes how the daughter of the king of the south will be given to the king of the north to make an alliance, but it will fail. It predicts shifting fortunes, with one king gaining victory only to have his successor lose it. The level of detail corresponds so closely to known history that some critics have argued it must have been written after the events occurred. This long prophecy of the conflict between the North and South culminates once again in the figure of Antiochus IV Epiphanes, the contemptible person who takes the throne of the North. The text accurately describes his campaigns against Egypt, his frustration with Roman intervention symbolized by the ships of Kittim, and how he would turn his rage against the Holy Covenant. It foretells his desecration of the Jerusalem temple, setting up an abomination that causes desolation, and persecuting those who remained faithful to God's law, a historical reality that tested Israel's faith to its core. The final chapter, Daniel 12, moves beyond the specific conflicts of the Greek period to the ultimate end of all things. It speaks of a time of distress such as has not happened from the beginning of nations until then. This refers to a period of unprecedented global trouble. Yet in the midst of this, there is a promise of deliverance for God's people, for everyone whose name is found written in the book of life. This provides a vision of hope that extends beyond the struggles of history. Crucially, this final chapter gives one of the clearest affirmations of a future resurrection in the entire Old Testament. It declares that multitudes who sleep in the dust of the earth will awake, some to everlasting life, others to shame and everlasting contempt. This moves the focus from the fate of nations to the ultimate eternal destiny of every individual. It promises that justice will ultimately be served, and that the faithful will be rewarded with eternal life in the presence of God. The chapter concludes with a mysterious command. Daniel is told to roll up and seal the words of the scroll until the time of the end. The full understanding of these prophecies, it is implied, would be reserved for a future generation. This adds a layer of humility to our interpretation, reminding us that while the prophecies provide a clear framework of God's control, some details may only become fully apparent as history unfolds according to His divine plan, encouraging continual study and reliance on God's wisdom. Now we must build a bridge from these ancient texts to our lives today. What is the modern relevance of these detailed prophecies about long-vanished empires and ancient kings? The first and most powerful connection is the unwavering message of God's sovereignty. In a world that often feels chaotic, unpredictable, and driven by the whims of powerful but flawed human leaders, Daniel's visions offer a profound sense of peace. They assure us that history is not a runaway train. There is a divine hand guiding events toward a predetermined and glorious conclusion. The prophecies serve as a powerful lesson in perspective. We live in an age of 24-hour news cycles, where every political crisis and international conflict can feel like the end of the world. Daniel reminds us that every human empire from Babylon to Rome and beyond is ultimately temporary. They rise in splendor, and they inevitably fall. This perspective frees us from placing our ultimate hope or our deepest fears in temporary political structures. Our true citizenship and lasting security are found not in any earthly kingdom, but in the eternal kingdom of God. Furthermore, the sheer accuracy of these prophecies provides a robust foundation for faith. When we see how Daniel foretold the succession of Babylon, Persia, Greece, and Rome, the specific division of Alexander's kingdom, and the precise timeline for the Messiah's arrival and death, it builds confidence in the reliability of Scripture. If God was able to so accurately map out centuries of future history, we can trust His promises for our own lives and for the ultimate future He has prepared for those who believe in Him. The prophecies also challenge our understanding of power. The world defines power through military might, economic strength, and political influence, the very things represented by the statues' medals and the ferocious beasts. However, the ultimate victory in Daniel's visions comes from a completely different source: a stone cut without human hands, and a Son of Man who receives his kingdom from God. This points to a different kind of power, one rooted in humility, sacrifice, and divine authority, a power that ultimately triumphs over all worldly force. This brings us to the very heart of the prophecies. While they span vast empires and centuries of time, they consistently narrow their focus to a single, pivotal figure: the Messiah, the Anointed One. He is the Son of Man, who receives an eternal kingdom. He is the anointed one who is cut off to atone for sin. The grand sweep of history, according to Daniel, is not just a power struggle between nations. It is the story leading to and flowing from the life, death, and ultimate reign of Jesus Christ. The prophecies are not just about what will happen, but about who is coming. This personalizes the entire book. It ceases to be merely an academic study of history and eschatology, and becomes an invitation. The prophecies force us to ask ourselves, have we acknowledged this king, the one who was predicted to arrive, to be cut off, and to ultimately receive an eternal dominion? Do we understand that the solution to the world's cycles of violence and corruption, symbolized by the beasts, is found in the rule and reign of this Son of Man? The prophecies point every individual toward a personal decision of allegiance. In our modern age, there is a temptation to seek control, to try and manage every outcome and secure our own futures. The story of Daniel, a man who had no control over his circumstances as an exile, teaches a different way. He prospered not by political maneuvering, but by faithfulness to God. His prophecies remind us that true peace comes not from controlling the future, but from trusting the one who holds the future. It is an invitation to release our anxieties about world events into the hands of a God who has proven he is in complete control. The vision of the final judgment and the resurrection also has profound implications for our daily ethics. Knowing that every life will culminate in either everlasting life or everlasting contempt should shape how we live now. It calls us to a life of integrity, righteousness, and wisdom, becoming people who are wise and lead many to righteousness, with the promise that such people will shine like the brightness of the heavens and, like the stars forever and ever, our present actions have eternal significance. We can also draw encouragement from the promise of deliverance for God's people during times of trouble. Daniel's prophecies do not promise an escape from hardship. In fact, they predict intense periods of persecution. However, they consistently promise that God will preserve and ultimately deliver his faithful people. For anyone facing personal trials or living in a hostile environment, this is a message of profound endurance and hope. God's people may suffer, but they will never be ultimately defeated. The theme of humility versus pride is woven throughout the entire book. Nebuchadnezzar's pride led to his humbling. The boastful little horn speaks great blasphemies before its judgment. In contrast, Daniel consistently gives all glory and credit for his wisdom to God. The prophecies themselves are a humbling force, showing that the grandest human achievements are but a fleeting prelude to God's eternal plan. This encourages a posture of humility in our own lives, recognizing our dependence on God for everything. The prophecies of Daniel also offer a lens through which to view current events. While we must be cautious about simplistic and speculative interpretations, the broad patterns Daniel reveals, such as the inherent instability of human alliances and the tendency of powerful rulers to become arrogant and oppose God, remain remarkably relevant. They equip us to be discerning observers of our world, understanding the spiritual dynamics that lie beneath the surface of geopolitical news, without falling into fear or despair. Ultimately, the prophecies are a story of hope fulfilled and hope yet to come. The predictions concerning the first coming of the Messiah have been fulfilled with breathtaking accuracy, giving us a solid anchor for our faith. The predictions concerning the final establishment of God's eternal kingdom give us a living hope for the future. We live in the time between these two great realities, standing on the certainty of what has been accomplished and looking forward with confidence to what has been promised. The enduring message of Daniel's prophecies is not a complex puzzle designed to create anxiety about the future, but a profound promise intended to build trust in the present. It is the definitive statement that history is not a random series of accidents, but a story being written by a sovereign, wise, and loving God. He has revealed the ending, and the ending is good. It is a kingdom of justice, peace, and righteousness that will never fade away, a truth that gives us unshakable hope no matter what headlines we may read tomorrow.